Hey nerds, Gleemax here. Today we're looking at the top 10 green, white, blue, or Bant Commanders, and the decks that they lead. Each commander will be ranked based on their popularity on EDHrec. Let's begin! At number 10 we have Janara, Asura of War. Janara is a 3/3 flying angel for green, white, blue. She has pay 1 and a white, put a 1/1 counter on Janara. Janara is a unique take on a Voltron commander as she focuses on +1/+1 counters. Her ability to dump mana to give her a +1/+1 counter means that you can almost always effectively use all of your mana each turn. Being in Bant colors, Janara is well situated for taking advantage of the +1/+1 counter theme, letting her swing in for the crucial 21 points of commander damage. We begin the game with cards like Hardened Scales and Conclave Mentor. Both of these cards increase the total amount of counters received by 1. We then play Janara as early as turn 2 and begin to amass counters. We usually need at least 1 to turn on a lot of our effects. We can use Janara's ability to accomplish this, however cards like Merfolk Skydiver can place a 1/1 counter on Janara in addition to having a mana sink ability of its own. From here, we enjoy all the +1/+1 counter synergies as we can. Vorel of the Hullclade can tap to double the number of +1/+1 counters on Janara, as can Branching Evolution. Ikoria's Ozolith allows all counters placed on Janara to be stored up when she eventually dies, meaning you lose very little momentum when the eventual board wipe hits. Herald may be awkward looking, but his ability to let anyone with a +1/+1 counter become unblockable lets Janara swing in for massive hits. Khans of Tarkir provided Abzan colors +1/+1 counter lords, such as Tuskguard Captain and Abzan Battle Priest, which grant powerful trample and lifelink keywords simply for having a +1/+1 counter. Lastly, you'll want to be able to defend your commander for as long as it takes for her to win you the game. Plaxcaster Frogling isn't only fun to say, but it is a shroud-granting frog bro that will deflect murders, just like frogs do in real life. Cards like Heroic Intervention are also played, again, to ensure that Janara can survive the eventual board wipes. Janara is a fun, albeit very straightforward +1/+1 counter Voltron commander, and is number 10 on the list. Next up we have Kestia, the Cultivator. Kestia is a 4/4 for 1 green, white, blue. Whenever an enchanted creature or enchantment creature you control attacks, draw a card. She herself is an enchantment creature. She also has Bestow. For 3 green, white, blue, you can cast this card for its Bestow cost, and the enchanted creature gets +4/+4 in addition to the ability to let you draw cards. Ruling clarification, you have to pay the increasing commander tax even if you bestow, as it is an alternate casting cost. Kestia, to me, feels like a Bogle's deck. Slippery Bogle, Glade Cover Scout, and Invisible Stalker are all cheap and very importantly have hexproof. These are the creatures you load up with some of the most synergistic auras in the game. Auramancer's Guise, Ethereal Armor, Ancestral Mask, and all that glitters. These auras give varying bonuses that increase with the amount of enchantments you have. For reference, all 4 on 1 Bogle would make that slippery boy a 23/23 hexproof first strike vigilance beater. When going down the Bogle's route with Kestia, the commander itself becomes a backup plan. Often you'll cast her for the bestow cost and try to draw cards before the creature you have put all your auras on eventually dies. Or you have no creatures in your opening hand and need a body to start enchanting. Bogles naturally is weak against Wrath, so a lot of Totem Armor auras are run as well, like Spider Umbra and Hyena Umbra. Lastly, be sure to run evasion granting auras. Unflinching Courage gives trample and lifelink in addition to a decent +2/+2, and Aquatious Form makes the creature straight up unblockable, which is fantastic when you're playing a battle cruiser style deck. While you're at it, put in Eldrazi Conscription. Slippery Bogle deserves it. Kestia is a battle cruiser commander, highly customizable and a decent number 9. At number 8, we have a Feldergriff. Feldergriff is a 4/4 for 1 green, white, blue with 3 activated abilities. You may pay a green to give Feldergriff trample. Target opponent also puts a +1/+1 green hippo creature token into play. You may pay a white. Feldergriff will gain flying until end of turn. Target opponent gains 2 life. And you may pay blue, return Feldergriff to its owner's hand, and target opponent may draw a card. This happy hippo is the origin of the Group Hug Commander playstyle, a playstyle where you provide benefits for your opponents and try to win via politics and combos. We start by having everyone draw a lot of cards, with Howling Mine, Kami of the Crescent Moon, and Dictate of Crufix. These provide continuous card draw. I tend to run a couple prosperity-like effects, where you can make everyone draw X cards, but those require a lot of mana. So we give everyone mana. Magus of the Vineyard and the enchantment that inspired it directly gives players 2 mana each turn. Rites of Flourishing is another Howling Mine effect and lets each player drop 2 lands a turn. New Frontiers lets everyone search for as many basic lands as you can pay for, so everyone has big bad creatures. Disincentivize being attacked with Pillow Fort cards. These are your propagandas, your ghostly prisons, and your spheres of safety. If attacking you would eat up 6 or 7 mana, they can't play what's in their hand and will be incentivized to attack other opponents. As far as winning is concerned, that's not really the point of the deck. Most of the time you'll end the game in second place, and that's okay. You can theoretically mill out your opponents by doubling and tripling your mana, and then casting a Prosperity. Feldergriff pioneered the Group Hug archetype and deserves a number 8 spot on the list. At number 7 we have Rafiq of the Many. Rafiq is a 3/3 human knight for 1 green, white, blue. He has Exalted, which means whenever a creature you control attacks alone, that creature gets +1/+1. And whenever a creature you control attacks alone, it gains double strike until end of turn. He's the OG Voltron commander. Commander damage is set to 21 points, meaning that an unblocked Rafiq attacking alone will deal 8 points of commander damage. Rafiq by default needs 3 hits to kill a player. His deck is all about lowering the number of required attacks on each player. Rafiq will often be your solo attacker, so we double up on his Exalted ability and run a suite of cheap creatures with Exalted. Aven Squire, Court Archers, Guardians of Kraza, these are your defensive line, giving Exalted and blocking when needed. Your main Exalted package includes Sublime Archangel, giving all your creatures another instance of Exalted, Battlegrace Angels to give your champion lifelink, and Finest Hour, an Exalted trigger and an additional combat step, which is absolutely amazing with Rafiq. You don't always have to attack with Rafiq though. You can sneak in a lot of damage if you use an Invisible Stalker or other unblockable creature as you are in blue, and you can steal the game with a well-timed Blighted Agent attack. Exalted Rafiq is my preferred build. He's a fun commander and is number 7 on the list. At number 6 we have Rune of the Hidden Realm, a 4/4 Rhino Soldier with Vigilance and Trample for 2 green, white, blue. He has pay 2 and tap, exile another target creature, return that card to the battlefield under its owner's control at the beginning of the next end step. Moving away from Voltron, we have the premier Blink Commander. Rune's deck is very straightforward. Play value-granting creatures and use Rune to exile and return them for repeated value. Muldrifter is the default card draw card, but Cloudblazer and Sad Robok work as well and provide consistent draw power. Ramp is also provided by blinkable creatures, such as Farhaven Elf and Wood Elves, provide repeated land searching. Removal can also be blinked in. Rex Sage can repeatedly blow up artifacts and enchantments, while Venser's Shaper Savant can bounce back threats turn after turn. And if you're feeling cheeky, Agent of Treachery lets you steal the best things your opponents have, and it even lets you draw cards if you've stolen enough of your opponent's things. We can't rely on Rune to be our only blink outlet though. Thankfully we're in blue and white, so we have access to Momentary Blink, Cloud Shift, Ghostly Flicker, Essence Flux, and much more. Running 6 or 7 is optimal in the build, and you can run whatever you want based on your preference. Conjurer's Closet is essentially 1 rune activation per turn, allowing you to, at worst, untap a creature, and at best, trust on 3 things your opponents control each and every turn. Rune is a fun toolbox-style deck that you can customize to fit your playgroup, constantly getting new toys with each and every set. Rune is a solid number 6. At number 5 we have Estrid, the Masked. For 1 green, white, blue, you get a 3 loyalty planeswalker with +2. Untap each enchanted permanent you control. -1. Create a white aura enchantment token named Mask. Attach it to another target permanent. The token has enchant permanent and totem armor. -7. Put the top 7 cards of your library into the graveyard. Return all non-aura enchantment cards from your graveyard to the battlefield, then do the same for aura cards. And of course, Estrid can be your commander. The first of the 2 Enchantress commanders, Estrid is a boring, generically good precon commander. So why not drive everyone nuts with a Stax build? Stax is a control deck focused around restrictive effects. We begin by slowing down each turn. Kismet makes artifacts, creatures, and lands come into play tapped, Aura of Silence increases the cost of artifacts and enchantments. Eidolon of Rhetoric ensures only one spell is played per turn, and Thalia, Guardian of Thraben, makes non-creature spells cost 1 more. Here's an example. If I wanted to cast a Soul Ring with everything I just mentioned on the board, here's what would happen. It would cost 4 mana, come into play tapped, and be the only spell I was allowed to cast that turn. For added salt, you can have your only win con be Azor's Elocators, a card that requires you to take no damage for 5 full turns to build up filibuster counters and win the game. Estrid isn't the best stacks commander, but as I personally don't like how Planeswalker commanders play out, you might as well play an annoying stacks build when you're playing Estrid, instead of generic enchantment value deck. You're able to make a decent build with Estrid. She's a dull number 5. At number 4, Derevi, Empyrial Tactician. Derevi is a 2/3 flying bird wizard for green, white, blue. Whenever Derevi enters the battlefield or a creature you control deals combat damage to a player, you may tap or untap target permanent. Additionally, you may pay 1 green, white, blue, and put Derevi onto the battlefield directly from the command zone. Besides being my number 1 bird wizard, Derevi is a powerful commander that lends itself to several different archetypes. I prefer a token-based Derevi build. If you have other interesting builds, let me know in the comments. Swarming with tokens enables you to utilize Derevi's untap ability to repeatedly untap multiple mana producers. As such, we run token generators that we can dump mana into. Ant Queen is costly at 1 and a green to make an insect, but the ability to have her stick around and produce bugs turn after turn makes the cost worth it. White Sun Zenith makes larger 2/2 cat tokens and shuffles itself back for repeated usage. Secure the Waste is probably the most efficient, creating an army of 1/1 warriors at instant speed. March of the Multitudes gives lifelink 1/1s and has Convoke, meaning that tapping out with an already sizable army of tokens during the end step can be devastating for our opponents. We run a lot more costly artifact accelerants that can tap for multiple mana. We do this because Derevi's untap ability can let us untap them repeatedly. Things like Gilded Lotus, Basalt Monolith, Grand Dynamo, in addition to the standard signets, all give a huge boost to mana. Remember, you can also untap lands if you need specific colors. Lastly, we run Parallel Lives, Doubling Season, and Anointed Procession to double the amount of tokens we create with each one of our effects. Token Derevi is fun, highly synergistic, and is one of the many builds you can do with this commander. Derevi is a fantastic number 4. At number 3, we have Tuvasa the Sunlit. Tuvasa is a 1/1 Merfolk Shaman for green, white, blue. Tuvasa gains +1/+1 for each enchantment you control. Whenever you cast your first enchantment spell each turn, draw a card. Tuvasa is a perfect commander for the Professor. Come on, it's a Bant Merfolk. What more can you ask for? Okay, Tuvasa is not a great merfolk commander, but it is the premier enchantress commander. Enchantresses are creatures that, when an enchantment enters the battlefield, you draw a card. In addition to Tuvasa, Argothian Enchantress, Mesa Enchantress, Volduvian Enchantress, Satyr Enchanter, and Eidolon of Blossoms all serve to make a powerful and consistent draw engine for the deck. Like Feldergriff, we set up a series of Pillow Fort enchantments. These are your Propagandas, your Ghostly Prisons, and your Spheres of Safety. Karmic Justice is an amazing Pillow Fort card, ensuring that whomever touches your stuff will have their best stuff blown up. You get a series of Commander Shutdown auras as well. Darksteel Mutation, Imprisoned into Moon, Song of the Dryads, all serve to semi-permanently remove opposing generals. Your primary win conditions are Sigil of the Empty Throne, which makes 4/4 Flying Angels whenever you play an enchantment, as well as one of my favorite cards, Shark Typhoon. This makes flying shark tokens. Each token's power and toughness are equal to the converted mana cost of the non-creature spell you cast. Tuvasa, while not being the merfolk commander that some people would like, is a fantastic enchantress commander. Tuvasa is a fantastic number 3. At number 2, Arcades, the Strategist. For 1 green, white, blue, you get a 3/5 Elder Dragon with Flying and Vigilance. He has, whenever a creature with Defender enters the battlefield under your control, draw a card. Each creature you control with Defender assigns combat damage equal to its toughness rather than its power, and can attack as though it didn't have Defender. Arcades is a very aggressive commander. Most creatures with Defender are balanced around having high toughness to compensate for the lack of ability to attack. Shield Sphere is a 0 mana 6/6. Steel Wall is a 1 mana 4/4. Angelic Wall is a flying 4/4 for 2 mana. Wall of Denial, 3 mana flying 8/8 with Shroud. Charix, the Raging Isle, a 4 mana 17/17. We just need to have our commander out. So we have a bunch of cheek beaters, we need to make sure that they can connect. Sidar Kondo of Janara has his own big butt and gives pseudo flying, while Tetsuko Umezawa ensures all of your lower power creatures are unblockable. Low power creature support is actually not that bad. Meek Stone prevents all creatures with over 2 power from untapping. Marble Titan does the same thing for creatures with 3 power, and Retribution of the Meek destroys all creatures with 4 or more power, bypassing all of your walls. We do run some other ways to make your walls attack, mostly for redundancy. High Alert provides the same abilities as Arcades on an enchantment. Assault Formation allows walls to hit with their toughness, but requires 1 green mana per creature to be able to attack. And the Rolling Stones is a band that allows walls to attack, but can't allow them to utilize their toughness in combat. Arcades is an awesome number 2, making walls a viable tribe in Commander. At number 1 we have Chulane, Teller of Tales, a 2/4 human druid for 2 green, white, blue. He has vigilance. Whenever you cast a creature spell, draw a card, then you may put a land from your hand onto the battlefield. You may also pay 3 and tap Chulane to return target creature you control to its owner's hand. Alright, this is Cadron's favorite commander, and there's no surprise as to why. With the ability to draw cards and play multiple lands each turn, Chewy abuses both enter the battlefield triggers as well as landfall triggers. You end up running a lot of mana dorks, with Noble Hierarch being the absolute best as she can tap for all 3 of your colors, but Llanowar Elves, Elvish Mystics, and Avacyn's Pilgrim make it into the list as well. Chewy dropping multiple lands a turn means you run a lot of landfall cards. Tatiova Benthic Druid allows additional card draw and life gain every time you play a land. Emiria Angel and Rampaging Baloths both generate you creature tokens with a landfall trigger, and Admonition Angel lets you remove whatever's in the way, often multiple things a turn. With a deck like this, you end up playing a lot of cards like Muldrifter as well for additional value. You end up playing a lot of creatures in the deck for the cast trigger from Chulane, so you'll usually close off games with cards like Craterhoof Behemoth or End Maze Forerunners, pumping up all of your mana dorks and being able to crash in and win the game. Chulane's is an insane value engine. As you try and empty your hand each turn, you'll often draw more cards than you started with. Play Chulane, drown your opponents in card advantage. He is by far the best and most popular Bant Commander. Alright guys, that's it for today. These were the 10 most popular Bant Commanders that see play on EDHrec. Which Bant Commander is your personal favorite? And let me know what 3 color combination I should do in my next top 10 video. Thanks nerds.